The serene town of Twin City, Georgia, was shaken to its core by a horrifying tragedy that played out in full view of the public on social media. Duchess Dior, a mother and beloved community member, was murdered by her husband, known publicly as the Frenchman, in the aftermath of a live-streamed argument that left viewers stunned and helpless. This gruesome event, marked by desperation, emotional volatility, and chilling cries for help, has become a painful symbol of how domestic abuse can fester in plain sight and how social media can become a silent witness to catastrophe. In her final hours, Duchess Dior made a harrowing plea to her online followers. "I don't know what to do, but I need help before I lose my life. My kids need me." These haunting words, shared just before the fatal incident, now serve as an unforgettable call that went tragically unanswered. What followed was a brutal murder-suicide that shocked thousands and triggered an outpouring of grief, anger, and reflection nationwide. The final moments caught on camera, the live-streamed altercation between Duchess Dior and the Frenchman, offered a devastating glimpse into the toxic chaos that had consumed their relationship. The footage captured a tense exchange, with visible emotional strain on both sides. At one point, Duchess Dior appeared to threaten another woman, identified as Jade Fox, in a moment that revealed the unstable and aggressive dynamic between the couple. Moments later, the situation turned deadly. Following the killing, the Frenchman also took his own life. In a chilling twist, he reportedly went live once more, sharing personal reflections and expressing raw emotion before the feed abruptly ended. These final broadcasts have since been deleted, but live on in the collective memory of those who watched, helpless and horrified. A devastated community grieves news of the tragedy spread rapidly across Twin City and beyond, spurring widespread grief and shock. Social media platforms were inundated with messages from friends, family members, and total strangers, all mourning the loss of a woman who had clearly cried out for help. Many expressed anger, not only at the perpetrator, but also at the systemic failures that allowed her to fall through the cracks. This wasn't the first sign of trouble in the couple's relationship. Reports and comments from those close to them indicated a long-standing pattern of volatility, fights, and deeply entrenched dysfunction. The Frenchman's own mother later confirmed what many suspected, that the couple had been trapped in a cycle of mutual toxicity for years, one they couldn't seem to break free from. An unrelenting cycle of abuse. The words of the Frenchman's mother offer critical insight into the turbulent relationship that ultimately ended in bloodshed. "They loved each other, but they were too much alike. Very toxic," she said. "I begged them to leave each other, begged them to go to church, to talk it out privately, not online. But they couldn't let go of the chaos." Her words capture the emotional entanglement of an abusive relationship, one marked by love twisted with pain and passion poisoned by control. Abuse is rarely straightforward. It's often cyclical, complex, and extremely difficult to escape. Duchess Dior's tragic story shows how even the clearest cries for help can go ignored when those around fail to act decisively or when support systems falter. Social media, the new battleground for domestic conflict in an age where every aspect of life is increasingly broadcast online, the line between public and private has blurred dangerously. For Duchess Dior and the Frenchman, their relationship played out on Facebook Live, arguments, accusations, threats, and ultimately, their tragic end. This hyper-public environment, while sometimes a platform for empowerment, also enabled their dysfunction to fester in real time. Social media can be a double-edged sword. While it allows victims to reach wider audiences, it also desensitizes viewers and disperses responsibility. In the case of Duchess Dior, despite her public warnings and visible distress, intervention never came in time. This raises uncomfortable but necessary questions. When abuse is made public, why does the response remain private, or worse, non-existent? The bystander effect in the digital age, the failure of timely intervention in Duchess Dior's case, highlights a modern manifestation of the bystander effect. Her desperate pleas were seen by many, yet no one acted with the urgency required. In digital spaces, the assumption that someone else will step in becomes dangerously pervasive. The accessibility of information doesn't always lead to action. Sometimes, it paralyzes it. This tragedy must be a wake-up call. If a person is visibly in danger, especially when they explicitly say so, waiting, watching, or scrolling is not enough. Action could be calling the authorities, reaching out to the person privately, or reporting content when appropriate. But above all, ignoring should never be an option. A deeper look into toxic relationships are often deeply intertwined with cycles of emotional manipulation, dependency, and chaos. In Duchess Dior's case, there were signs, recurring fights, visible emotional distress, and public breakdowns. And yet, the couple remained tethered, as many do, by complex bonds that mixed love with control and fear with attachment. Breaking free from such relationships is never simple. Emotional abuse, often overlooked, can be just as lethal as physical violence. The constant erosion of a person's sense of self, isolation from loved ones, and psychological torment create barriers that can seem insurmountable. Both families reportedly tried to intervene, but their efforts, tragically, were not enough. The tragedy's impact on children and families, perhaps the most heart-wrenching outcome of this tragedy, is the fate of the couple's children. They are now orphans, left to grapple with the trauma of losing both parents in the most violent and public way imaginable. Their lives are forever altered, not just by grief, but by the psychological scars of a tragedy that unfolded in the digital spotlight. The families must now not only mourn, but also find a way to shield these young lives from further harm. Support from the community will be essential through grief counseling, emotional support, and long-term care. These children are the innocent victims in a storm of adult chaos, and their healing must be prioritized. The public needs to learn to intervene. The death of Duchess Dior should not be forgotten. It should be studied and learned from. There must be a broader societal reckoning with how we respond to warning signs, especially when they are public and explicit. People must be trained and encouraged to act when they see potential danger. This includes creating better access to domestic violence resources, teaching people how to recognize abuse, and eliminating the stigma around seeking help. When someone reaches out, it must be met not with silence, but with support. Duchess Dior's legacy. More than a tragic ending, Duchess Dior was more than her final moments. She was a mother, a woman who loved fiercely, and someone who desperately wanted to live for herself and for her children. Her willingness to speak out, even in her darkest hour, speaks to a strength that must be honored. Let her death not be in vain. Let it be a catalyst for serious dialogue about domestic abuse, the limits of social media, and the importance of community support. The time for awareness is over. The time for action is now. Conclusion: a cry no one should ignore. What happened to Duchess Dior should never have been allowed to happen. Her live-streamed cry for help was tragically ignored, and now it stands as a testament to society's failure to protect one of its most vulnerable voices. This case must not be remembered only for its horror, but for the urgent lessons it imparts. We must listen louder, respond faster, care deeper, and most importantly, act before another voice goes silent forever. May Duchess Dior rest in peace. May her story move us toward compassion, vigilance, and change.